biggest issues with anyone on the right really is when I talk to them, when I'm like just genuinely just curious about their worldview. Like genuinely, I don't usually go into debates trying to convince the other person. It's more like a discussion and an exchange of ideologies. I'm genuinely trying to understand where they're coming from because it's genuinely just such a foreign concept to me that I don't understand it. But I often get like assumed evil before I'm even given a chance to like present my argument or to have any type of substantial discussion. It's automatically you're on that side and you're promoting that agenda and I'm against that. Mind you, this happens when I don't even like explicitly disclose my political label. I'm not a registered Democrat. Fuck you. You don't know my life. But it's just this constant straw man and this constant like, well, you want all of the transgenders and all of the schools to do all of the drag shows and you want all of the tampons in all of the boys' bathrooms and all of the boys in all of the girls' locker rooms. And it's like, I thought we were talking about the price of eggs. Like, I'm so confused on how we got here. Why am I being accused of defending child trafficking and a fucking satanic cabal? It's a very disingenuous way to conduct your debates. It's a very disingenuous way to argue, and it's very weak because it just shows that you don't have anything else to stand on other than the fact that the other side is ridiculous. I used to do debate in high school, and I remember there was one time, it was an exempt debate, so you have to research for both sides. You don't get multiple days upon days or weeks to research like a Lincoln Douglas. You get it like an hour beforehand. And I had to research like, should performance-enhancing drugs be allowed in college sports? Like, no. Why? What? Why are we letting steroids in college sports? I couldn't think of a good argument for that. And so, because I couldn't think of a good argument for performance-enhancing drugs in college sports, I just thought of a really, really, really weak argument against performance-enhancing drugs in college sports. Well, technically speaking, caffeine is a drug, right? It's chemically considered a drug. And it could be performance-enhancing in that when you drink a cup of coffee in the morning of a meat, that helps you stay more awake and more alert. And there's also benefits to heart activity with caffeine and with coffee beans. So if you're banning performance-enhancing drugs, you're gonna ban people from drinking coffee? How do you enforce that? Now you're monitoring all of the students, what they're putting into their body at all time. These are college kids. What the fuck is it? That's so weird. Like, why are you doing? You see how I didn't actually like present any arguments? All I did was refute hypothetical ones, and it sounds good. It sounds good if you think about it for like 2.5 seconds very shallowly. But if you put a little bit more thought into it, it's like, what the fuck is she going on about? Obviously, you just wouldn't consider caffeine a drug. Like, that's the easiest. Like, you just wouldn't. Caffeine's just not considered a performance-enhancing drug. Boom, done. End of argument. This constant straw manning of arguments is so prevalent and so infectious in political discourse today that I am attempting to break the mold. I am being the change that I want to see in this world. So for the next week, I will be doing a series where I steel man everything, or the top 10 things that I could think of that Trump has done in the first 3 weeks of his presidency. A steel man is the opposite of a straw man. So a steel man, instead of presenting the absolute worst caricatured joke version of the other side's argument and tearing that down, you present the best part of the other side's argument. You present it in the best faith possible with your entire chest arguing for that side. And then you tear down that argument. It's a much more effective debate strategy because not only does it just like show moral integrity in that you're willing to give the other side a fair chance, but it's also a lot more effective in conveying your own point, because if you're able to show that you actually do understand the other side's argument and you do understand what they're presenting to you, and you're not just mischaracterizing it or fear-mongering it, and then you refute that, that's so much more effective of a convincing strategy, of a persuasion strategy. And what is the debate if not trying to persuade the other in a little bit? Obviously, you're not going to convince them 100%, but in just a bit. I will be making a tier list of these arguments based off of my ability to be persuaded by them. 100% subjective. These are the top 10 things that I could think of. First, I'm not going to lie. I'm not ashamed to say that I did have to consult ChatGPT to help me with some of these arguments because I genuinely could not construct any. But without further ado, hey Google, pick a number from 1 to 10.
Here's a random number. 9.
9. The penny. Oh, this is so easy mode. Okay, we're gonna do 2 today. For far too long, the United States has minted pennies, which literally cost us more than 2 cents. This is so wasteful. I have instructed my Secretary of the U.S. Treasury to stop producing new pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time. Very inspirational, I must say. I have no issue with this. Pennies are wasteful to produce. Nickels are even more wasteful to produce. I think this is performative, okay? I don't have to steel man this. It's a good argument. Yes, pennies are wasteful. He's just not taking it to any depth of a level, okay? Yes, pennies are wasteful. Now what? How do we collect all of the pennies that are sitting in all of the water jugs across America, okay? Why are Coinstars taking 15% fees from changing your coins into cash? That's the reason Elon wants to get rid of their coins, because why are you going to go transfer your coins, literal money, for a different form of money, except you get less money? That doesn't make any sense. Why are banks not mandated to have a coin counting machine? How are we going to collect all of the coins that are out there that are not in circulation and put them back into circulation? If we collect all of the pennies that are out there in the world right now and melted them for the copper, because I think they only just recently started doing the zinc ones, the copper is valuable. You could sell the copper. You could make copper paneling, and copper wiring, and other electrical shit that copper is good for. Like, this just seems like the thing that, like, the 4-year-old is like, well, I never use a penny, so why do we even need the penny? Like, okay, yeah, you're right. Let's get rid of the penny. But first of all, I don't even know if this is a substantial, like, can he do this by a truth? Like, can the U.S. Secretary even just... It remains unclear if Trump has the power to retire the coin, which has been a part of the fabric of America for 233 years. The move would likely require the approval of Congress. Even though it's part of the U.S. Treasury, Congress authorizes every coin and most metals that the U.S. Mint manufactures and oversees the mint operation under its public enterprise fund. Okay, so now knowing that this is something that just needs the approval of Congress, I'm wondering why the Democrats even let him have this win. This is a reoccurring theme in the Democratic Party, is when we think that everything is going to go our way, always, we stop focusing on things that can go better, and instead we just expand on new things instead of mastering the things that we already have. I think that that's an issue in the Democratic Party because we just had the majority of the House and Senate. Like, it would have been so simple to introduce a bill that said, hey, let's get rid of the penny, let's get rid of the nickel, let's move to a $1.50 base, let's create this collection plan to have all of the coins that are out there in circulation, circle back to us. Let's make a plan for melting down the metal and for having the facilities to do all of the melting down of the metal and turning them around for a profit. Like, let's implement this in a plan. Republicans are just like, no, let's get rid of the penny. Yay! No penny.
Put your pride on the shoot.
It's my dancing. Thank you. I actually haven't heard anyone talking about the Coinstar thing. Like, I think that was a good idea. I think that Coinstars should be, like, mandated to not have a fee anymore. Or at least a lower fee. Or maybe the government could subsidize some Coinstar machines instead of subsidizing Tesla for a new contract. Penny will lovingly go in the S tier, starting off really strong. Hey Google, pick a number between 1 to 10. 5. Doggy style good boy squad. Doge. Okay, I guess the theme for today is the straw mans that are the easiest to straw man, because I agree with all of the reasons behind them and I disagree entirely with the implementation and the execution of them. Similar to the penny, I cannot fathom why the Democrats allowed Republicans to have this as a win. Even though we have the Government Accountability Office right now, it's obviously not as effective as it needs to be, and no one was holding that office accountable. I don't think anyone is out there arguing that the government is not bureaucratic and is not wrapped up in bureaucratic nonsense. We have programs that serve literally no purpose. We have programs that are serving redundant purposes that are being covered by other programs in other parts of the government. The Government Accountability Office actually found that the government funds 47 different training programs across 9 agencies. 47 different training programs across 9 agencies is ridiculous. Why do you need that many different training programs for 9? That's 5 different training programs per agency. Why is that necessary? You don't need to be funding all of that. Okay, not only is there all of these redundancies and in the types of programs that we're funding and in the overlap of them, but it's also so administrative and not effective at this point. Why are we not? Most of the money that's being given to these agencies isn't even being given to fund programs that they say are being funded. It's being given to fund the agency so the agency can justify its existence. Like, how does that make any sense? And there's also no type of accountability on any of the programs. Agencies aren't required to show some type of productivity report to any type of government official. They're not required to justify their existence or to show their return on investment or to justify their mission. They're just doing things just to do them. They're just existing just to existing without purpose. Why are we falling into this pattern of government? That's why it's so wildly ineffective. All of these are great arguments, right? I hope that you are sympathetic to all of these arguments. I hope that I made a good case for them because I agree with all of them myself, okay? I disagree in that what Doge is doing right now, what Elon Musk is doing with his 6 little good boys following him, accessing treasury records, accessing financial records that were pretty public before, and claiming that they found some type of big break, the smoking gun, when these people are not forensic analysis, they're not forensic accountants. That's an entire fucking field. You could go and get a bachelor's, a master's, and a doctorate, and you would still write 60, 50 papers about this shit and still not fully understand the grasp of it. The idea that 19 to 26-year-olds are going to be able to effectively go into these agencies and determine what needs to be cut and determine the best way to do these things. Our brain is not fully developed. You don't even get full cognitive function until age 25. Why? That alone should be a big fucking siren going off in people's heads. But let me stop being a nihilist, okay? I'm not just gonna shit on what they're doing. Let me propose an alternative that I think makes way more sense and that I can't believe that the Democrats didn't do this earlier when they had control. Like, I can't believe that they allowed this to be done by the Republican Party. Number one, why are agencies given automatic budget increases? What the fuck is up with that? Okay, you shouldn't get an automatic budget increase every year just with the assumption that, like, oh, prices go up every year, so we just automatically have to adjust it for an increased percentage every year. No, fuck that shit. You, as an agency, it's your responsibility to go up to Congress and say, this is why I need every single dollar I'm asking you for. You have to create an itemized list to produce to Congress to present to them. We need X amount of dollars that are going to go directly to here. Y amount of dollars going directly to here. None of that happens. That's such a basic, zero-based budgeting. Boom, done. Do you know how much money you would save just as a baseline? It just shows how little thought these people put into this. Because if I was going into the government and I wanted to get rid of government waste and bureaucratic spending, my first thought would be, okay, where is the money coming from? Who is giving these people the money? Congress, okay? Why is Congress giving them the money? Why is Congress approving all of this when proper research, proper justification, proper explanations haven't been done or presented to Congress before? Like, why is that even why do they even have the money to misuse in the first place? I think there's this underlying assumption in most of the policies that the administration is doing right now, where you can't trust anything that bureaucrats are doing literally ever. And because you can't trust anything that they're doing literally ever, the only way to go about making change is to force them to do things that they don't want to do. And the very fact of the very idea, the very notion of them not wanting to do it is proof within itself that it's something that needs to be done. That idea of governing is just absolute insanity and anarchy, I think, if you start getting into the idea that, anything that goes against your agenda can't be solved in a democratic way, in a processed way, with law and order, following rules and regulations. What happens when 5, 8, 10 years down the line, you get a Democrat in office that has the same fucking authoritarian populist impulse, and all of a sudden now we have socialism? Like, what happens then when Donald Trump has set all of this precedent? What happens? Okay, zero-based budgeting, number one, going off of that, you need to do a cost-benefit analysis of every single agency, maybe not every year, maybe that's a little harsh, but at least every 2 to 5 years, okay, be doing an overall, what is the return on your investment? How have you turned around the money that we've given to you? What is your justification for existing? And not just for getting funding, for existing. Have you fulfilled your mission? This is something that I think is really exemplary in education, which that's going to be a whole nother video. But in education, the Department of Education got so insanely bureaucratic that they completely lost the mission of teaching kids for the sake of teaching them. They turned into this powerhouse that's just turning out, whatever the next generation of workforce, people in the workforce is going to be. And that's not an effective way to teach people. That doesn't foster an environment of learning. And so it goes against the very mission that the department was created. And that's why it's so ineffective now. So if you could get some type of, it doesn't even need to be people. All of this stuff could be automated. You could have algorithms to be doing all of this stuff. Algorithms that'll automatically look at like all of the data being outputted by these government agencies, all of the money that's being put in. Like they'll analyze where the money's going, and you could just go off of that, whether or not they do or don't need to be continuing. So zero-based budgeting, cost-benefit analysis, and these performance analysis for all of these government programs, right? Okay. Going off of this, you can start getting rid of redundant agencies. You can start combining agencies that are better serviced together to consolidate things. You can start just creating this big, I have this vision of a really big fat Excel sheet that's just being broadcasted all over this big like movie projection board. And it's all of the different agencies and all of their inputs and all of their outputs and all of their stats. And that's just a database that just exists and people just have access to, and people can look at, and people can justify, and people can understand. I think that's the biggest thing, is transparency and making sure that people are aware of what these things are doing. Because you could go to spending.gov right now and look at the overall budget and look at the different departments and whatnot. But it's so general and it's so far removed from what those agencies are actually doing that when there is that gap in what these agencies are doing, now you have situations, USAID, a program that is primarily for helping people, primarily for humanitarian aid, for assisting in measles and HIV vaccine distribution, for helping, not to be cliche, but for helping starving kids in Africa. But no one knew that. No one knew that until after Elon Musk started cutting it. But he filled that gap of knowledge by asserting that it was this evil money laundering operation by the Democrats that was being used to fund Politico and to buy good stories about them, which is not substantiated, by the way. The Politico thing was subscriptions to Politico Plus, which is access to databases that universities and government employees use. It would be the same thing as getting a subscription to like JSTAR or ProQuest or something like that. Like it's not, you're not paying for the media, you're just paying for access to the tools that are there. Transparency as a whole would just make the American public feel better about where their taxpayer dollars are going. And based off of that, okay, we need transparency in government contracting, okay? Do you know how many government contracts are negotiated by prior government employees that know that they are going to be taken care of when they end up in that government contractor role? And so they preemptively are helping the government contractors that are in that role because they know that that's the way that it works and that they're going to be taken care of once they're up there. It's a very serious issue, not just in defense contracting, which is what I was alluding to, but in everything, even just from the whatever paper cups the White House is using, there's a lot of government contracts that are not properly negotiated, that are not properly, there's a lot of government contracts that are not properly negotiated, that are not competitive at all. If we started opening up those negotiations and being really transparent about those deals that are being made with the public, hopefully the public, us, hopefully we would be able to hold the government accountable in some type of way. But not just that, it would also open the door for competitiveness in the contracts, right? If everyone's bidding, try and get the safe, good government contract that's stable and secure. they're going to be arguing for the lower price because they want that contract. And again, this is another thing that could be AI, algorithmic AI. This could be an algorithm, okay? You don't need to be having people doing these negotiations and figuring out the best price. You could have an AI, an LLM to. Oh my gosh, this entire video is just me advocating for the introduction of AI and taking over the workforce. But genuinely, you could have an algorithm that used data and analytics and price points at different companies and scoured the web for various substitutes that would be cheaper. Like, there's so many ways that you could cut costs in there. Okay, and then also going off of this weird relationship between government employees and the contracts that they're negotiating and between these government contractors and the private sector, right? The idea of corporate welfare to me is just absolutely ridiculous, absolutely insane to me. When you are looking at the government's budget and you are considering cutting SNAP benefits, EBT, food stamps, all of these humanitarian things, Medicare, Social Security, and that's something that you're considering cutting, why are you considering cutting things that are primarily assisting the lower working class that probably wouldn't be able to afford the hit, rather than cutting something that is only assisting multi-million-dollar corporations? Do you know the government spends $100 billion on corporate welfare a year? $100 billion with a B. Do you know how long 100 billion seconds is? 3,200 years. That's 3,200 years. It hasn't been 100 billion seconds since Jesus Christ allegedly died. Like, how is that even do you know that if you took Elon Musk's, I'm trying to do this math real quick, 320 billion? That took so long to figure out. If Elon Musk gave away $1 million a day, like every single day he went out into the world and just gave $1 million to a random person, he would still be a billionaire after 8 years. It would be over a decade before that man was no longer a billionaire. At which point he would still be a millionaire. Why the fuck are we giving any type of corporate subsidy to SpaceX or Tesla? Why? He doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. Okay, not just Elon Musk too, but there's also insane dies in the oil industry or in the agriculture industry, in the produce department. There's crazy communications going on. The idea of a corporate subsidy in itself it's so ridiculous to me. It's such a Reaganomics fucking trickle down supply side economics thing. But okay, if we are doing corporate subsidies, the return on investment or the stipulations that should come with that should be so widely beneficial to the American public that it shouldn't be controversial at all. There shouldn't be a reason for anyone to look at a corporation and be like, why are you taking money from the government unfairly? For example, if you were to require that company to offer like mandatory platinum healthcare to all of its employees, like why is that not no one thinks about the things that are actually gonna help the workers that are working there. It's like, no, we're gonna help the corporation and just have faith in the fact that that big corporation will then, let it go down to all of the underlings below, without getting too much on the trickle-down economics and the tax rates, because that's an entirely other video, okay? We have this idea of zero-based budgeting. We have this cost-benefit analysis. We're getting rid of redundant programs and overlaps. We are creating algorithms that are able to establish which programs are inefficient and which ones are redundant and which ones have overlap. We have more algorithms that are going to analyze our government contracts and make sure that we're getting the best price negotiable. And also, I didn't even mention this, but we're gonna cap bureaucratic costs and administrative costs. Okay, you're not allowed to spend more than 20% of whatever budget you're given by Congress on administrative costs. 80% of that has to go towards whatever program, whatever agency, whatever help you claim to be giving to the country. 80% of that has to be paid out. If that sounds a good idea, I stole it from Obamacare. Also, mandatory digitizing of everything, because that's just money, time, efficiency, proficiency, just instant instant digitization of everything we should have. Now, where does it go on the tier list? I want to put it at a C because I agree with all of the reasons and I disagree with all of the execution. So I'm leaning towards like dead center, but because I do agree and I am persuaded by all of the arguments for, I'm gonna move it a little bit up. I don't know, this is all subjective, this could all change, but I agree with a lot of the sentiments. I agree with a lot of the arguments for the creation of Doge. Just I can't emphasize enough this very accelerationist ideology in this administration, where if something is not working perfectly, you just need to completely tear it all down and that's it. Just fuck it. Just everything is ruined. We can't fix anything. And I disagree with that part of it, but I agree with the arguments nonetheless. There are obviously 8 more to go, and if I did this in one video, it would probably be 3 hours long. My retention would be so low and I would be so poor. So I'm joking. I get paid by the DNC. Don't worry, my paycheck's safe. We still have all of the juicy, meaty topics to go. Everything on border, everything on the anti-DEI stuff, everything having to do with isolationism and birthright citizenship. So make sure you subscribe down below. Turn on that little bell so you get notified the next time that I post. You know you want to. As always, 4 more years.